What If's sixth episode, What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark, has officially aired on Disney+. This is an episode I enjoyed, however I do think it missed some potentially brilliant opportunities. Furthermore, in missing those opportunities, this episode kinda suffered. On the one hand, I really enjoyed seeing Killmonger again. Michael B. Jordan returns to the role once again, and he's fantastic. I loved him as Killmonger in Black Panther, and he was just as good here. The strongest element of this episode for me was Killmonger's scheming and manipulation. He very much reminded me of Darth Sidious and how he manipulated the Republic and the Separatists into going to war with one another, thus starting the Clone Wars. Killmonger does something very similar here in that he manipulates the American government into declaring war on Wakanda, leading to conflict between the two nations. On top of that, he helps Tony Stark build the weapons of mass destruction that would be used against the Wakandans, basically battle droids, but then he joins the Wakandans in an effort to fight against the Americans in order to earn the trust of his uncle T'Chaka and the rest of the royal family. It was awesome getting a deeper insight into Killmonger's desires and motives. He wants to conquer America as a means of liberating the black people of that nation, but only Wakanda has the means to do that, so in order to earn their trust, he creates a threat that could jeopardize the safety of Wakanda, so he can join the Wakandans in taking it out, thus earning the trust of not only the Wakandans, but also the love and admiration of his uncle. I actually gasped when Killmonger killed T'Challa in order to trick the Wakandans into thinking the Americans did it, and then killed Rhodey in order to trick the Americans into thinking the Wakandans killed Rhodey. I love the scene near the end where Killmonger enters the ancestral plane and is confronted by the deceased T'Challa. Seeing Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan interact with each other was amazing, and despite not having that much screen time in this episode, Chadwick Boseman was phenomenal. His delivery has a gravitas and wisdom to it, making it really difficult not to get enraptured by everything he says. I love T'Challa's line where he tells Killmonger how wrong it is for believing that the only cure for human suffering is more suffering, which sums up Killmonger in a nutshell. He wants to commit these acts of oppression that were committed on black people on the people that originally committed those atrocities. On the flip side, Killmonger's motives do make sense and are understandable. He feels that by hiding from the world, Wakanda allowed the suffering of black people throughout history to continue when they had the power to stop it, which is technically true. Like the Black Panther movie, this episode perfectly highlights the contrasting values and ideologies of these characters. The stuff in Wakanda was great. I loved seeing Killmonger forming a father-son bond with T'Chaka. Sure, it's likely he's doing this so that he can get revenge for the death of his father, but it was interesting nonetheless. It was very intriguing that T'Chaka actually accepted Killmonger as part of his family. It was very heavily implied that he does this out of grief for his son's loss, but it does make me wonder what would have happened had it been T'Chaka who was faced with Killmonger entering Wakanda's borders without T'Challa dying beforehand. Would he have rejected Killmonger or accepted him into the family? The Battle of Wakanda was epic. I loved seeing Killmonger team up with the Wakandans military. The scene where Killmonger charges through the Stark bots on a rhino was awesome. Seeing the Wakandans rising up to avenge T'Challa was beautiful, but also tragically ironic because they were fighting alongside his killer. This is where the animation was at its best in this episode. The lighting and the use of color were fantastic and very atmospheric. On the other hand, there's the Tony Stark stuff. A Tony Stark that wasn't abducted by the Ten Rings and therefore didn't go through the irrevocable change that would lead him to become Iron Man is interesting, but unfortunately the episode doesn't take the opportunity to really explore this. They do explore how his character is affected by this change. He barely acknowledges Pepper and his friends, and he even tries to kill those that betray him, but they don't really do much beyond that. We never really get a scene that demonstrates the greater consequences of Tony Stark not becoming Iron Man. He's basically a plot device used to create a threat big enough to take on Wakanda. A lot of the episode is focused on Tony Stark and Killmonger's relationship, but I just didn't buy into it because while I buyed into Killmonger's character, I just didn't buy into Tony's character. I know Killmonger was just manipulating Tony, but I wish we had got more of a look at their relationship and saw it grow and develop. It didn't feel earned when a dying Tony tells Killmonger that he believed it was him and Killmonger versus the world, because while we were told that they had a close relationship, we weren't really showing it. I think the reason we didn't get more scenes of these two together is 100% because of the runtime. This episode and last episode absolutely could have done with longer runtimes, and I do think that for season 2, Marvel really need to consider giving the episodes longer running time so there's more room to flesh out the story and characters. On the whole, I still enjoyed the episode. The Wakanda stuff was so good that it almost felt like a whole different story was being told, and seeing Killmonger plot, scheme, and manipulate his way to power was excellent. It was just the Tony Stark side of this episode that was lacking for me, which unfortunately is quite a huge chunk of the episode. I'm gonna give this episode a 7 out of 10. So that was my review of What If episode 6. I do hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you so much as always for watching. Before I go, I would just like to ask you guys, what did you think of this episode? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will indeed see you guys in the next one. Until next time, live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always.